Okay, let's start for last presentation here for today, which is Risma, represented by the CEO and co-founder Lars Munksgaard and CFO Jakob Hallberg. So Lars and Jakob, please go ahead.
Thank you, Kasper. Will you take the next slide?
Yep.
Thank you. We are going through 3 topics today. First, we are talking about Risma, the market we are in, and the position we have in the market. Then we will present some metrics and key figures, and in the end, we will tell a little bit about the outlook and what's our target for the coming years. So if you move to the next. In this decade, we see that GRC, or governance, risk and compliance, is one of the topics that are on top of the agenda in many companies and in the boards as well. And that's followed 2 other decades, where the first decade of this century focus was a lot about the business and the ERP systems. The next century, it was one of the topics was CRM systems. And when I founded the company back in 2014, I assumed that GRC would be one of the main topics in this century. So it was on that basis that I founded the company. And if you're moving to the next slide, Kasper, then I also realized that when we talk business-to-business software, it typically matures in the same way, with the company starting with no solution, and then they often build, in the first phase, they build their own solution, often in spreadsheets, and then moving on to point solutions. And point solutions is a solution that helps the business solve one particular problem. It could be risk management, it could be internal controls, it could be GDPR, it could be IT security, and so on. When we're talking about the GRC space, if we're talking about CRM systems, then it could be sales, it could be marketing, it could be customer support, etc. And from there, they moved on to the last stage, where we have the platforms. And we can see nowadays that a lot of software providers names their own solutions as platforms. So we are actually a little bit careful using that phrase. What we use instead is a suite, where we have developed, and we came from being a point solution provider 4 or 5 years ago, but we from the outset took the position that we would build for the last stage right away. So and actually first we were a quite successful point solution provider in internal controls, and then we moved on to privacy. But back in 2018, we took the decisions that we would, in our development, we would focus on other topics and other solutions that we wouldn't be able to sell in the short term, but we believed that it would be necessary to be in the right strategic position now. And if you move on to the next slide, Kasper. What we have developed is basically an all-in-one GRC platform. We have developed 8 solutions that we have collected in a suite. I will come back to those solutions. But basically, we can solve any kind of compliance in our software. And we have built 7 more solutions that are not included in our suite. So they are not included in the 8 core solutions. And we also have customers buying our software without consent and building their own solutions. So actually we have probably something like 25 solutions in total among our customers. But in our sales and marketing effort, we focus on the 8 core solutions. I will come back to those. And the reason for that is that the 8 solutions are industry agnostic. So basically they are usable for all kinds of customers. We have built the platform to be able to, or our solution to be able to support the experts in the analysis phase, but also the execution or the governance in the phase following the analysis. And Denmark is the most mature country in the world when it comes to GRC measured on spend per capita, and it's also probably compared to the number of people in the country, it's probably also the country in the world with the most GRC solutions. We see that all our competitors, without any exemptions, they are point solutions. So and we compete with some on internal controls, others on contract management, and then again others on risk management or GDPR or IT security. But we are the first one providing a solution or a platform where you have all these solutions, and that also means that we are quite popular as partner, because a lot of companies selling ours to their customers often would like to have some kind of software to support it. But if they should have 5 different software providers to cover the GRC space, that would be cumbersome. So having one partner, namely Risma, is often preferable. So it hasn't been that hard for us to get the partners we mentioned here. Actually right now we decided to focus on assisting the partners we already have rather than getting more partners. If you move to the next slide, Kasper. In the left side of the screen, we show one back, please, Kasper. Kasper, can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry, can you hear me? I'm back here. I think it was a bit lag.
Okay, no problem. In the left side of the screen, we have showed the suite, namely the 8 solutions that we often sell as a package. Like if you, for example, would buy a Microsoft Office suite, then you would also have a number of solutions. So these are the 8 solutions we have collected in the suite. And we can see that an increasing share of our new customers buy the suite from the outset. And to mention a few solutions in the suite, I mentioned GDPR. That's one we sell a lot. So is IT security. Contract management is increasing. Financial controls is also. We have a Danish competitor who also was a competitor 5 years ago, and they stayed as a point solution. But now we have improved our financial control solution. So now we are competing head to head in the big Danish companies and also in Sweden. So that's also something that moves faster for us. But if we look ahead, then it would surely be ESG that is the solution that is going to open most doors for us. There's a new directive coming up in Q4 this year. It's called Csr Directive, and it's in hearing right now. And we assume that this directive will fuel even more the GRC agenda in the companies. So we have decided to invest a lot of resources over the next 4, 5, 6 months to have the best solution we can have on ESG. And we are actually quite well situated for that, because when we started building the GDPR solution 5 years ago, we had to start more or less from scratch, building question, or what is that called, and gap analysis, and all the things that need to be developed to cover, which was then our first compliance area. But compliance areas actually look very much the same when it comes to the software. So when we are going to build the ESG solution, we will already have like 90% of what is needed to build an ESG solution already there, probably even more than 90%. And it's proven. So it's proven solutions. It has proven itself in GDPR for 3 or 4 years, and we seldom, if ever, hear any criticism of the functionality in there from our customers. So it will be far easier for us to build a strong ESG solution than it was to build a GDPR solution. And basically, we believe that we will be very, very close to have a mature solution as and when the directive is in place, which again is expected to be 1st of November this year. So we and when we did the GDPR solution, we I think it was 4 times our ARR was multiplied by 4 over a period of less than a year. We do not expect that to happen with the ESG, but we definitely expect ESG to be the best opportunity we could get, and more or less the best timing as our software is ready. So we have decided to spend even more on that area this year. And in the right side of the screen, we have shown an example of the management information you can get from the system. Here we have like 8 solutions, each with a speedometer, and in each speedometer you can see a score between 0 and 100. And so you will have one score for example, ESG, or you could have one score for North Africa, if that was what you wanted. And these scores are based on KPIs taken from different parts of the data in our system. And that is something we released in March this year. And I think it's the first of its kind. And if you move to the next slide, Kasper, then I think Jakob will walk us through some of the numbers.
Thank you, Lars. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. So this is our SaaS metrics for the first quarter of this year compared to the first quarter in 2021. So in the first quarter we ended by 17.5, which is 4.2 million Danish crowns, better than the first quarter last year, which is 32% of increase in ARR. In absolute numbers, we increased the first quarter by 2.2 million Danish crowns, which is approximately 4 times higher absolute number growth in ARR compared to the growth we had in 2021 first quarter. Our upselling was as well 4 times as high in first quarter 2021 compared to last year. And the revenue churn, on the other hand, also positive. We more than half the churn we had in the first quarter, which is really positive for us, obviously, as well. Putting these upselling and revenue churn, you probably all have, if you have heard all the full agenda, you probably know all these metrics already. So, but putting the upselling and revenue churn together, we get the net revenue retention rate, and we were happy to end the quarter of 103%, which is 6 percentage points better than last year at 97. Last SaaS metrics is our customer acquisition costs. We onboarded 27 customers during first quarter 2022, which even though we increased the cost base as part of the kind of the investment in growth, we managed to decrease the customer acquisition cost by 5,000 Danish crowns per client in the first quarter compared to last year. So all in all, are pretty good and on track compared to what we expect on our guidance for the first quarter and our guidance for the full year of 2022. Our ARR guidance, which is not put on this slide, but just so you know, is a growth between 25 to 28 million Danish crowns for the full year. Not a growth, but end year 25 to 28 million Danish crowns, which is a growth of 63 to 83% compared to prior year. And our EBITDA guidance is expected to be between -21 to -23. As you know, we are investing heavily in growth in Denmark, but also in Norway and Sweden. And this will on the short term cost some cash, but on the longer term, we are pretty confident it will pay off. So all in all, the first quarter satisfactory result and on the expected growth path as we have guided towards.
Yeah, and we expect to have a cash positive operation as from Q4 next year.
Yeah. That was it for me. Next slide.
So yeah, we just recently launched this management overview, GRC Intelligence Center, and our focus, as I mentioned, is on ESG, and then it's on suite sales, and often typically the customers don't know that a suite exists. So the first contact we have with the customer is often that they are looking for a point solution for one particular subject, but often they end up in a decision whether they should have a point solution or at all, in which case we are obviously one candidate, or they should have the suite or most of the suite. And we can see that an increasing share of our customers, new customers, decide to have the suite or a number of solutions in the suite. It's actually a minority of our new customers who only buy one solution. And as Jacob mentioned, the growth expectations in ARR this year is as mentioned here. And we have a continued focus on Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. And those are the most mature countries in the world, and probably also the countries in which the move to suites happens first. So that's the reason for focusing on Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. And there are a lot of opportunities in those three countries. Obviously, at one point of time, we will move outside Scandinavia, but we're not in a haste to do that because there are so many opportunities in Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, and we will see that a number of point solutions will cease to exist, and I think that will happen gradually over the next years. I think over the next 5 years, I believe that most of the interested customers, they will take the move away from point solutions, and I'm sure that already this year we will see some competitors leaving the market in these countries. Yeah, I think that was it.
All right, thank you for the presentation, Lars and Jakob. Let's take some questions. Let's focus first on the partner strategy, which is something that you have focused more on, and you have basically also announced a lot of new partnerships. There's a question here: how much of the ARR is partner driven today?
It's an increasing but still relatively small share. I don't have the figures on top. I would guess that we are moving from 10 to 20% over the next 2 quarters. That's my best guess.
Yeah.
And actually, interestingly enough, we see that in the number of leads coming in from partners is higher in Sweden than it is in Denmark, and we don't really have an explanation for that as of now. We are this month launching a new partner portal, and I believe that will also result in more leads coming in from the partners.
Yeah. And you are now focusing on the existing partners, and as I've seen, most of them are also focusing in the Nordics. But can some of these partners take you outside the Nordics when you're ready for it?
Yeah. We have 3 of the big 4 audit firms as our partners in, and it's relatively few people in these organizations even in Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. We are in contact with, obviously, because they are quite big, these organizations, that it can take years to get out to all departments. So obviously they can take us outside Scandinavia, but also some of the Swedish partners have activities, even they are headquartered in Sweden, they have activities in Benelux and also in Germany, I believe.
Yeah. And in relation to expanding outside the Nordics, there's a question here, maybe focusing on the scalability of your software. So do you need to alter your solution, both, you can say, to the Nordic markets, but also when you are targeting outside the Nordics, do you need to make some huge changes in the software, or is it easily scalable to outside, for example, the Danish market?
I don't believe we need to make any changes in the software itself. It's the content. For example, we have questionnaires with GDPR, and so they need to be available in the local language, and they need to be checked by local law firms. So there's preparation for each country, but to the software itself, we do not need to make any changes.
Okay. Then there's a question about the net retention rate, which was 103% from the last quarter. Do you have any targets on how much upselling you would like to, or you are aiming for on a longer perspective?
I believe it's between 100, an index between 105 and 110 is probably where we expect to be within the next year or so. And could it be even more? Perhaps it could, but we have changed our pricing. So some customers, they actually pay from the outset for all the users they need for the topic in question. So I think I assume somewhere between 105 and 110 is the level we need to be in.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for the presentation, Lars and Jakob. I think we have been through all the questions, and so I would like to thank you again, and see you.
Thank you.
Yeah, see you.
Bye.